Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning we're going to talk about 10 steps to help you organize your taxes. This is part one of a two-part series, so let's jump right into it. So when compiling information in order for you to file your taxes, it's so important that you figure out a system that works for you. Now, what works for you may not work for another person, much like our process of going through building up a plan to spend. Now, when you're going through the process of figuring out a system to not only store tax information, documentation, receipts, as well as notes as you go through the year, it will also be important for you to figure out how to best understand how you are doing from a household standpoint when it comes to profit and loss. Now, a profit and loss statement has to do typically with an organization, is applied typically to an organization, but I typically encourage people to build a profit and loss statement for their family, for their household. Now, what that means is that you're factoring in what happened in the past. It's a snapshot of what happened at a given period of time. So you may be looking at January of this year, and you may be looking at all the income that you brought in, as well as the expenses that went back out, and whether you actually move towards building margin or away from building margin. And so I encourage people to build a profit and loss statement in even as simple as an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. And I encourage people to do this and combine this with what they're putting together for all their tax documentation, because this allows people to build up a comprehensive picture of their personal finances. So when you are going through the process of figuring out the right system to store all of your tax documentation, you'll also want to look at how you can make notes effectively, store receipts and tax documents accordingly, as well as figuring out how you can manually build a profit and loss statement for each month, so that then you can tie that into your plan to spend and actually be able to cross-check how you are doing in regards to calibrating your plan to spend against how you have done historically. So that's a lot of information, but we'll be breaking it down what exactly this will look like and how this can be a tool that can help you. So there are a number of different systems out there to scan in documents and receipts and store those accordingly. And I would encourage you to explore those avenues. But for today's purpose, I just wanted to keep it simple. And what works for many people is to simply have a Google document or a Google sheet or a Excel spreadsheet that you can utilize in order to drop this information into. So I broke this out into 9 key categories, as well as one bonus category, one bonus aspect to look at as well. And when you're looking at this, it will be important for you to build up a spreadsheet that has different tabs that speak to different aspects of tax, of your financial picture, and pulling that together in order to file your taxes each year. And as you get into the rhythm of this will help to ensure that you're spending as little time as possible on the process, but making sure that you're factoring in everything that needs to be factored in to streamline that process, to make sure that you're not only making it simple, but you're also making sure it's accurate so that you're not paying any more tax than you need to. So one of the tax agencies that I work with typically provide me with a questionnaire. Now, this is probably pretty popular, but they in particular are very thorough. And so some of their information that they put out there and provide in regards to questionnaires, I found to be very helpful. And so when I'm going through these 9 key components. I'm going through it from the lens, from the approach of their standpoint as tax professionals and how they handle their clients. Now, when we're going through this process, take note of those key components, those tabs that you would create, and then be able to appropriately put in the documentation into into those Google Sheets or into that Excel document, as well as storing those documents that substantiate that data. So the first one comes down to personal. So personal has to do with looking at any changes to your world that have happened over the last year. And so you'll put these in periodically throughout the year as you experience maybe a move, or as you have a relationship status change and you get married or divorced, or you have a dependent that is no longer a dependent on your taxes, or maybe you have a newborn at home, or an adoption of some kind. So personal aspects is anything related to your personal world that may affect your taxes. The second component comes down to healthcare. Now, healthcare, there's a lot of changes happening in that sphere, in that world. And so you'll want to make sure that you are receiving a 1095-A form for basically showing and representing that you had coverage for the year. And so you'll want to keep those documents on file in a Google Drive so that you can just share that with your tax professional. So you may also have a 1099 SA that was provided to you for an HSA health savings account. Those are becoming really popular. And you also may have a medical savings account, an MSA. And so those components are things that you'll want to consider including in this documentation. Beyond this, you may have a long-term care contract as a 1099 LTC that was delivered to you that you'll want to basically keep that on file as well if you are of age that you have one of those policies in place. Beyond that is education. Now, many people have a 529 plan, and if you do pull money out of that 529 plan and apply it for educational purposes, you'll receive a 1099-Q. So you'll want to file that away and make note of that to be able to notify your tax professional. Beyond that, if you pulled funds, withdrawn funds from your IRA for the purposes of education, you'll also want to make note of that as well. Beyond that, you'll have deductions for donations. So donations are anything that you may have donated to an individual that exceeded $15,000. Or it could be any kind of donation to a 501c3 or some kind of cause otherwise that would have maybe a statement that they provided at the end of January of this year for anything that was given in the prior year. So you may have that kind of documentation that you just want to make sure that you keep an eye out for or request so that you have that for your representative. So beyond that, you may also have credits that you can take advantage of. If you own a home and let's say you bought Energy Star appliances, or you put in a solar package onto your property, or you increased your insulation, or bought new windows or something like that, you may have a credit that you can use that will reduce your tax burden. Beyond that, you may have had a purchase of a qualifying electric or a hybrid vehicle that has a write-off of some kind that you can take advantage of as well. And so those are just some ideas related to credits that you may be able to take advantage of. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're reminded to come back on a daily basis and improve in managing your personal finances. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.